This is Augie Macro with Cryptid Creatures. Today we're going to talk about one of the more fantastical creatures of American folklore. Straight from the lumberwoods of Wisconsin, the Hodag. The Hodag is said to be a large bear-like predator, about 7 to 10 feet long, with large claws, teeth similar to that of a saber-toothed cat, green to red eyes, bull-like horns, large spines running down its back to its tail, spurs on its wrists and ankles, and black or dark green fur. It is said to eat anything from fish and turtles to porcupines, dogs, and even humans. There have been sightings of it throughout the Great Lakes region, particularly in the states of Minnesota and Wisconsin, but it is most well known from the small town of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Here we are in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, home of the Hodag. For at least 130 years, this town has been the center of the Hodag legend, all the way back to the time of the lumbermen and the frontiersmen, and it still is to this day. Here we are at the Rhinelander Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Center in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, which displays the world's largest Hodag statue, created by a local artist named Tracy Goberville about 25 years ago. Eugene Shepard was born in 1854 in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and eventually became a surveyor of timbers in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. He was known for being a prankster, and perhaps one of his most elaborate and greatest pranks was the Hodag. Here we are at the gravesite of Northwoods lumberman Eugene Shepard, who supposedly was the first eyewitness of the Hodag. His story goes that in 1893, when in the woods of Rhinelander, he discovered the Hodag. He then sought out to hunt it down. Once he found its cave, he knocked it out with chloroform and had it taxidermied. He then displayed it at the next Oneida County Fair. In reality, he had a fake Hodag made from the hide and horns of cattle. This staged photo is from 1896, and it's supposed to represent Gene Shepard and the townspeople trying to subdue the Hodag. Is the story of the Hodag all just a hoax devised by Gene Shepard in 1893? Or are there really Hodags lurking out there? We may never know. Here we are at the Hodag exhibit at the Pioneer Park Historical Complex, also known as the Rhinelander Logging Museum, which is the oldest logging museum in the country. This is a replica of Eugene Shepard's original Hodag created by Edward Stultz in 1951, as the original was destroyed in a fire. Here we are at the Hodag store in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, where we had the opportunity to interview Ben Brunell, the owner of the store and the host of the podcast, The Hodag Show.
I'm born and raised here in Rhinelander, so I'm consider myself a Hodag. Hodag's just a fun, interesting creature here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and there never really was like a centralized location for Hodags, and one day I just decided to offer people a fun, interesting place to experience the Hodag. We were originally like an antique resale store, and over the course of many years I've noticed people asking, where in town do you get a Hodag keychain, postcard, or some sort of doodad with the Hodag on it? And I said, I don't know. So after a course of time, I started painting things green and slapping Hodags on stuff, and here we are today. You can find me at thehodagstore.com. We have a YouTube channel, a Hodag Show podcast, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, you can find the Hodag there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for stopping.
While in the Rhinelander area, we were informed of another local oddity, the Rhinelander. Here we are in Monaco, Wisconsin, home of the Rhinelander. This creature, also known as the green monster or Venus Lake monster, is said to be a hybrid between a rhinoceros, an elephant, and an octopus. However, it is merely the creation of a man named Guy Daly, who discovered a piece of a tree that he thought resembled such a creature. He then made it into this and displayed it at the Lake Venus Tavern in the early 1940s. It sat there until 2002, whenever it was moved here and the town was put in charge of its feeding and care. Although the legend of the Hodag is often attributed to Eugene Shepard, Native Americans of the region have told stories of a similar creature for thousands of years. They call it Mishipishu. Here we are at Lake Superior, where for thousands of years there have been reports of a strange monster prowling the waters and coastlines of this lake. It is known as Mishipishu. It is said to resemble a large lynx or panther with horns and spines running down its back. It is said to be the archenemy of the thunderbird because in the native Ojibwe culture it is thought of as a malevolent spirit. There are many similarities between it and the Hodag, including physical and historical relations. Are they related? We may never know. We had the opportunity to go up to Lake Tomahawk, a town just north of Rhinelander, to interview Rod Umlauf, a nature artist from the area. He is known for his many paintings of wildlife, mythical creatures of the region, and the Hodag.
Well, my name is Rod Umlauf. I've been an artist since, well, my first set of paints was 8th grade, junior high. My mom got me some acrylics, and I had been drawing and painting ever since I was little. Mom said that the only thing she could do to keep me out of trouble was give me a pencil. So, and I've mellowed out since then. Then I took art classes in my electives in high school and then majored in commercial art in college, but then I really didn't care for the commercial art, so then I switched over to fine art when I got out of school and moved to a little cabin up here on the Rainbow Flowage. That was it. I've been a Northwoods guy in Lake Tomahawk for 35 plus years. When I moved up here, of course Rhinelander is south of town, so I heard about the Hodag. I was a wrestler in college, and that was my sport, and the junior high had a job opening, so I coached in Rhinelander junior high for about 10 years. So I coached a bunch of Hodags.
Have you ever had any sightings of the Hodag?
There were some genuinely interesting observations. I really became interested in the Hodag in that all of its representations, the commercial aspect of it in Rhinelander seemed very cartoonish and just, it was just not real believable. It's like, well, that's not what they would look like. I set about to paint what I really believed a Hodag in its natural setting. So I do a lot of outdoor stuff, and I'm in the woods a lot. There's interesting creatures out there. Eugene Shepard is known to be a storyteller. I believe he really had encounters with the Native Americans who genuinely had it more of a legend. The Native American, the Mishipishu, Machi-Manitou, the great water lynx. This is where the legend of the Hodag gets really close to home. And so this is a map of Lake Tomahawk. Eugene Shepard owned this piece of property. He would do a lot of trading with the Native Americans on this particular point. And this is Lake Tomahawk, just on the other side of town. The stories, if you look at Eugene Shepard's Hodag, and if you look at the great water lynx, it's like it's the same creature. Maybe, maybe not. I think there were a lot of legend sharing on that point. One of the things that made me kind of convinced that the Native American legends were based on something real. I do a lot of musky fishing art, and so I go to a lot of fishing shows and what have you, and I have a photo album with a lot of my paintings, and I had some photos of the Mishipeshu that I had painted. And lots of people coming into the booth talking, but there's one guy, he was looking through my photo album, and all of a sudden he just stops and he looks, and he's just, his face changed. He goes, "Hey," whatever his buddy's name, "come over and look at this." And and he looked at me and he said, "We saw this." He said, "We were fishing on Georgian Bay, and we were musky fishing, and this creature, but it wasn't as big as the legends would have it, although it could have been a young one, just like, little fish, big fish. But the way that those guys, this wasn't staged at all, and the looks on their faces, they genuinely saw something, and it came right up to their boat." And I believe these guys when they said that they saw this creature, and it looks a lot like a Hodag, but without the fur.
The Hodag or the Mishipeshu, or if they're the same thing, any of them, if they did exist, what do you think they are?
Legends are created, and the Hodag has a kind of a supernatural origin. The lumbermen during the logging days were not known for their niceness and their nice treatment to their animals, and legend has it that they would really, they're cruel to their oxen, and so according to the stories, they would cremate the oxen, and that's actually Paul Bunyan and the great blue ox, all that's kind of connected. And they would have to cremate these oxen because there had been so much profanity hurled at them that they would need to purge their souls, so to speak. And then out of the ashes rose the Hodag, which then makes it kind of a supernatural, from another realm type of creature. Even in the Native American legends of the Mishipeshu, it is a spiritual being in their legends. The sightings of this, I don't doubt them. If you had some elders from the tribe here on the reservation come and tell stories about it, I wouldn't doubt it.
How has the Hodag influenced your artwork?
I've really enjoyed putting them in a natural setting and making them look how they should look. And the commercialized version, and even, I'm sure you have heard, he even made a episode of Scooby-Doo. I don't doubt that it very well could exist. Eugene Shepard probably embellished somewhat and created a little bit more, but that I really believe that goes back to the great water lynx. And that great water lynx could come on shore, and then the artwork has, if you've done some searches on the internet of the Mishipeshu or the great water lynx, sometimes it does have fur as opposed to coming out of the lake. So, and that, especially reading the accounts in some of the books and things, and that gets into some of the other really interesting mysteries of Lake Superior. That there's there's stuff in there.
Big lake.
It has so much character. I mean, within a couple miles, it can just completely change. Some of the rivers there, and it's, you know, its temper. It can be a gentle sleeping giant, or it can be a roaring monster. You know, so it's, but yeah, it holds a lot of, a lot of neat stuff. And I actually working on the book is finished, but it's not published. I took a number of the legends, combined the legends, and then invented some of my own characters. And the Hodag was going to have a chapter, but as I was writing, and I painted all the paintings first, and then let the story come out of the paintings. I had done some Hodag paintings for the book, but as I was writing, Hodag's character just didn't fit the spirit of the story, so he got the boot. But there's book 2 in my mind where he definitely has a place in the story, where he'll come up to the lake and cause some mischief. Well, this is just a forest scene, and it's going to be, this will be some high weedy grass and then some forest, and it will be snowing eventually. So next part I'll be developing these. I'm going to be pushing these back, so it's kind of like in a snowstorm where you can't really see the trees too much, but they're there. And then the Hodags will be, you know, coming out, and I'll probably, there'll be some snow. So, but kind of a transition where it's not quite winter yet, but an early snow. A big Hodag type, or Hodag creature, and then a Bigfoot, as if it's his pet, you know. So I'm mostly known for my sport fishing art. I did a lot of work for Muskie Hunter magazine. I was in Canada, and my brother and I were in one boat, and then we had a couple buddies. They were in another boat, and this moose is swimming across the lake, and our buddies, they just like weren't paying attention. They just went scooting right on by, and anyway, we motored up close, and I always had this thought I'd like to jump on the back and ride one. They used to do that, but I never really got the opportunity. So you've seen that one. That one. But this is, all these are local spots. That's off of Highway 70 up by Arborvitae. But yeah, here's the Peshu. But you can kind of see the resemblance.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite paintings. I had fun with that. And then the great sturgeon, or the giant sturgeon, that's another Lake Superior. It's so big it could fit an entire tribe in its mouth. Thanks, Augie. It was great to meet you and your folks, and I'll enjoy watching some of your productions. So, you do good work, good research.
While in the area, we had the opportunity to visit the headquarters of the United States Concealed Carry Association, or USCCA, and talk to Steve Fischer. Steve is a native of Wisconsin, and as a child was convinced that he had an encounter with the Hodag. How did you first become aware of the Hodag?
1969 was when I first became familiar with the Hodag. My parents had a set of best friends, and they co-shared a cabin up in the north side of Wisconsin. So we call it up north there, you know, we go up there. And in the north side of Wisconsin, the area was through Rhinelander, where the Hodag, the legend of the Hodag, is originated. And we had a cabin on Muskie Lake up there by the Hazelhurst and Woodruff area. So on the way up, my dad, his best friend, some of my cousins started warning me of the Hodag. I'm 6 years old at the time, okay? So this was 54 years ago, and I'm like, the heck is a Hodag? You'll see. So we get up through Rhinelander, and they have this statue out of the Hodag. I'm like, that's not real. And they're like, no, it's real. I'm like, it's not real, can't be real. They're like, it's real. You'll see when we get there. That's how I found out about the Hodag. So we drive through Rhinelander, and we get up towards where the cottage is, up there close to Muskie Lake. And the road goes from 2 lanes to 1. And the side of the road closes in. So in other words, we're going through a tunnel of trees. And it's at night, because we left on a Friday afternoon. It was a 4-hour drive up north, and it was night. And what happened is there's no streetlights up there. It's just dark. The only lights that are out there are the moon and the stars, and it's really not a lot of light. So my cousin started teasing me about the Hodag, that's when the Hodag comes and gets you. It gets you when you go through the tunnel of trees. And they're like, it's there. You can see the movement off to the side of the road. And of course, you can see the movement off to the side of the road because the wind's blowing, but as a 6-year-old, you don't realize that it's just wind. And then they say, there, you can see the eyes. And I'm like, you can see the eyes. For all I know today, they could have been fireflies. You know what a firefly is, right?
Yeah.
But I swear to God, I saw eyes. My heart started racing, I got really kind of anxious. And everybody in the vehicle is getting me all worked up. We drive and we get to the cottage. There's no lights there until you go into the cottage and turn them on. So I'm like, I'm not getting out of the car. Not getting out of the car. The dog starts barking. What's the dog barking at? It's barking at the Hodag. It's keeping the Hodag off into the tree line. Get out of the car. The dog takes off. Well, what was the dog taking off after? In my mind, it was going after the Hodag. In reality, it was going to find a place to take a leak, right? So I'm worried about the Hodag. And of course, I see movement, wind in the trees. I see eyes, probably fireflies. I can explain this stuff all away right now. But it was real. So it was my turn to get out of the car. My dad got into the cottage and flipped the lights on. I could see, and I took off on a sprint, ran from the car and got into the house. Now, don't forget, I'm 6. I'm not this big, strong little guy right now like I am. I was a little kid. I get in there, and the dog comes in, and the dog is playful. Everybody's excited because we're up in the cottage now. We're going to have a good family weekend. Then I could see the eyes through the windows. And I could see more movement. And I didn't sleep. And throughout that first weekend when I learned about the Hodag, my mind created this monster that was lurking and waiting for me to make a mistake and come out from the lit area and into its domain, which is in the darkness of the woods. And that fear lasted with me for years. I was always worried about the dang Hodag. Even when I knew that it was just a urban legend or a rural legend, whatever you want to call it, I still was nervous about the Hodag. And now at 60 years old, I'm still nervous of the Hodag. Not really. I love to tell the story to young men like you, young ladies, anybody that wants to listen to stories, because that's what happens when you become an old man like me. You become a storyteller.
If it did exist, what do you think it would be?
Oh no, it exists. Okay?
Well, then what do you think it is?
It's a hybrid. As you look at it right now, you can see it's got fangs, and it's got horns, it's got this round face with a big nostril. Looks like a combination of things, right? I don't know if some crazy bear got busy with a bovine cow. I don't know. Grew the cow like antlers, or not antlers, but horns. Got the fangs from the bear, maybe? I don't know. Could be an alien. Could be an alien dropped in, you know. It's possible, right? I don't know what it could be. It looks like a dragon. I have a dragon on my arm. You see that dragon? Kind of has a similar length to it, similar tail. Not scales though, but fur.
If you were to encounter a Hodag, how would you defend yourself?
Run. You hang out with people, and out of that group of people, you make sure that at least 2 of them run slower than you run. So when the Hodag comes out of the woods for you, you just take off, and the Hodag will stop and eat the people that couldn't keep up with you. The other way would be to stay out of the woods, stay in the light, because those were the things that I learned when I was a young man. Hodags don't come into the light. They like to stay in the woods where it's dark.
Do you have any other Hodag stories?
I think I was probably maybe 10 or 11 years old. So I was at that point where I started questioning the validity of the Hodag legend. Nonetheless, didn't know either way, right? Never saw one and didn't really truly not see one because it could have been something in the woods at night. Who knows, right? Can't see. Can't touch it, can't feel it. So it's there, but it maybe isn't. We got done fishing and we had to walk back to the cottage from the area that we were fishing in. And I was with all of my cousins, and I was the youngest of the group, and they started doing the Hodag thing again. There it is, they would say, and you'd look into the woods, it'd be like stuff moving in the woods, you know, that type of thing. And then you would hear things, whether it was imagined or not, you would hear things. I think this particular time, there was a deer or some deer that were running through the woods, and it was crashing. And it was definitely woods. It wasn't a place where people lived. And of course, listening to that crashing noise and looking at things moving around in the woods, because it was thick northern woods in Wisconsin, my mind conjured up the Hodag. So I started running. And I ran. And I kept on running until I got all the way back home to the cottage.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for bringing back my nightmares. I'm going to have a hard time going to sleep tonight now, Augie, and I'll be able to credit it to you.
Cryptid Creatures is brought to you by the Kitty Petters Union, Cobble Sound Recording Company, and my dad's show, Meet the Pressers. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Cryptid Creatures YouTube channel, and tell your friends to do so as well. This is Augie Macro with Cryptid Creatures signing off.